Have you ever walked into a dazzling room where every crystal chandelier's light reflects like 1,000 eyes watching you and instantly known you weren't truly welcome? I've grown used to that feeling. I'm Claire Bennett, 33 years old, Vice President of Global Development at Hayes Capital, a financial conglomerate based in New York. After 11 years of dedication, I own a $2 million penthouse, nearly 5,400 square feet, overlooking Manhattan's skyline. In my world, where $100 million deals are sealed with a handshake, that's a well-earned achievement. But in my family's eyes, I'm still just the overly ambitious daughter, too rigid, with no one to marry. Today is my younger sister Olivia's wedding. At 27, she's beautiful, sweet, and the pride of our parents. Olivia has always been their golden princess, the center of all attention. I don't envy her, but sometimes standing in the shadow of such adoration makes me feel almost erased. The wedding is at the Waldorf Astoria, New York's most iconic five-star hotel. I arrive early, stepping into a grand hall adorned with white roses and gold ribbons. The air brims with opulence, so lavish it could dazzle anyone. I know I've contributed $70,000 wired to my father's account 3 months ago to cover costs, plus connections I leveraged to get Olivia featured in Brides of New York. But in the Bennett family, my efforts are often overshadowed by praise for my sister. "Claire, you finally made it," my mother, Margaret, says, approaching me, her eyes scanning me head to toe. She frowns at my fitted navy silk dress. "Couldn't you pick something more feminine? You look like you're heading to a board meeting." I give a faint smile. "Good morning, Mom. Where's Olivia?" She brushes past my greeting, her eyes lighting up. She's radiant like a true princess. You have to see her in that wedding dress, the perfect bride. I hear the subtext. At 33, unmarried, no kids, in my parents' eyes, that's a failure bigger than any achievement. My father, Thomas, calls from the reception table. "Claire, can you check the seating chart? But don't rearrange everything like last time. You always mess things up." I bite my lip. The chart is clearly flawed. Dad placed a divorced couple at the same table as rival business partners. But I just nod. "I'll double-check, Dad." My father, Thomas Bennett, always puts honor first. To him, the family must be a perfect unit for public display. I've never fit into that unit. Around me, whispers rise. 33 and still no ring on her finger. Such a pity for Margaret. At least she has Olivia to be proud of. Claire's probably just married to her job. No wonder no one picks her. I keep a polite smile, adjusting a vase on the table. Their words, like small familiar knives, barely sting anymore. Only numbness remains. A cousin sidles up, smirking. "Claire, maybe if you spent less time in boardrooms and more in other rooms, you'd have someone by your side." Laughter erupts nearby. I want to retort, to say I've turned down 3 men this year because they couldn't handle a more successful girlfriend. But I swallow the words, no need for more conflict here. Mom explains to those around. "Claire's always been too picky, so ambitious, it's hard for anyone to keep up." Her tone is part pride, part excuse. I don't argue. In this family, my achievements are only seen through the lens of my flaws. My penthouse? They call it a little apartment. The Tesla I bought last year? Olivia scoffed, saying it's probably just for show. Even when my name appeared in financial news, Dad only said, "Don't let work overshadow your duties as a woman." I turned to the large window, morning sunlight streaming in. Manhattan sparkles outside, glass towers reflecting the sky. Among them is the building housing my penthouse, not just a home, but proof of sleepless nights, cross-continental flights, and contracts I fought for alone. Yet here in my own family, it's all summed up in one word: selfish. Olivia enters the hall in a flowing white gown, her eyes sparkling. The crowd gasps in admiration. My parents beam beside her, proud as if they've raised an angel. I step forward, hugging her gently. She smiles. "Thanks for coming, Claire. It's my day. Be happy for me, okay?" Her day. For years, I've never had a day of my own in this family. I remain the shadow behind Olivia's glow. In that moment, I sense clearly, today's event won't just be a wedding. It will be where years of buried tensions erupt. I don't know how yet, but I feel a storm brewing, ready to sweep away the polished facade my parents have built. I take a deep breath, adjust my dress, force a smile, and step into the laughing crowd. They don't know that I, the too much, too different daughter, am about to face the worst drama of my life, one I didn't choose but must star in. Have you ever felt like I do, present in your family but invisible to them? Have you given everything only to receive comparison and disdain? If so, leave a comment saying I understand so I know I'm not alone. Have you ever overheard words not meant for you that completely changed how you see your family? I did, and it chilled my heart. I was walking down this hallway behind the banquet hall when I heard my father, Thomas, speaking from the family prep room. The door was ajar, letting every word slip through. After the speech, we'll announce the special gift, he said, voice brimming with pride. The Manhattan Penthouse, Claire's gift to Olivia and Brian. I froze. My mother, Margaret, chimed in. Are you sure? If we announce it publicly, Claire won't have a way out. She's always so proud, but at her sister's wedding she won't dare make a scene. My heart pounded. I gripped the wall to steady myself. The penthouse, my decade of sweat and tears, the symbol of my independence, was now a bargaining chip for their social acclaim. Dad chuckled. Absolutely. It's the only way to make Olivia truly happy. She deserves it. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't a request. It was a trap. A staged plan where hundreds of elite guests would witness this sacred moment. If I stayed silent, I'd become the family's living ATM, forever a shadow beside Olivia. If I resisted, I'd be framed as the cruel sister, ruining her sibling's big day. Suffocation gripped me. I stepped back, my heart thudding painfully. Returning to the hall, I saw Olivia laughing brightly among friends. Everyone praised her beauty, her charm. She caught my eye, winking as if sharing a secret. A terrifying thought struck. Did she know? I headed to the bar, trying to regain composure. The champagne glass trembled in my hand, reflecting my pale face. Whispers surrounded me. Claire's always so serious, doesn't fit in. Lucky for Thomas and Margaret, they have Olivia. I swallowed bitterness, my heart surging. I wanted to scream that I paid for the flowers on that table, used my clout to get the hotel to have the cost, arranged everything perfectly, but no one cared. To them, I was just the difficult sister of the bride. I glanced at my parents. Dad adjusted his tie, eyes gleaming like a general before a victory. Mom held Olivia's hand, smiling endlessly, her gaze saying, "My daughter is the brightest gem here." And me? Just a silent shadow, no matter how many zeros in my bank account. Two paths swirled in my mind. Stay silent. I'd become the family's ATM, and my penthouse, my greatest pride, would become Olivia's wedding gift. I'd lose the one place that gave me freedom. Refuse. I'd be the cruel one, ruining a wedding watched by high society. They'd call me petty, selfish, uncaring about family happiness. Neither choice was easy. Soft music signaled the ceremony's start. I looked around. 300 guests. Politicians, tycoons, old family friends, their eyes bright with anticipation. They didn't know a forced drama was about to unfold. I gripped my glass, took a deep breath. If this was a battle, I'd enter with the calm I'd honed in the fiercest negotiations. But this wasn't just a contract. It was my dignity. My father's voice echoed in my head. The Manhattan Penthouse, Claire's gift to Olivia. And my mother's. She won't have a way out. I gave a faint smile, but inside the storm had formed. They thought I wouldn't resist? They forgot I've survived global conferences where a wrong word could cost millions. If I could stand firm there, I could stand firm against my family. The only question left, how would I face it when they publicly cornered me? So I knew the truth. My parents were set to force me to give up the home I'd traded my youth for. A chess game was laid out, and I, the pawn cornered, was forced to choose resistance or surrender. What do you think I'll do? If this story grips you, comment Y. If not, comment N. Have you ever been put under the spotlight before hundreds, applauded for a gift you never agreed to give? I have. And in that moment, I understood what it's like to be the lead in a play I never wanted to join. The clink of a spoon on a champagne glass drew all eyes to my father, Thomas Bennett. He stood tall in the ballroom, microphone in hand, his face glowing with triumph. The music stopped, 300 guests holding their breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice clear and commanding, "today is our family's happiest day. My youngest daughter, Olivia, has found her life's partner. Nothing is more precious than seeing our children start a new family." Applause roared. I sat silently at table 5, my heart racing. I knew what was coming. He continued. "And to make this day truly special, our family wants to give the couple a gift. A home worthy of their new beginning, the Manhattan Penthouse, Claire's generous gift to Olivia and Brian." The room exploded. Clapping, cheers, and praise echoed. Whispers floated. "Incredible! What a sister! Such rare generosity." My eyes locked on Olivia. She pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes wide, voice trembling. "Oh my God! Claire! Really?" But her lips curved into a faint smile she couldn't hide. She knew. I stood. Every gaze turned to me, expecting a nod, a warm smile, a happy hug, handing over the keys. Instead, I stepped onto the stage, the microphone cold in my hand. "I'm sorry," my voice rang out, steady, unwavering. "What was just announced isn't true." The room fell silent. "The Manhattan Penthouse is my legal property," I said, each word deliberate, "and I never agreed to give it away." Murmurs spread, then clearer whispers. "What's she saying? Is she refusing? So selfish." Dad forced a smile, trying to regain control. "Claire, don't make this difficult. It's your sister's big day. We can discuss later." I shook my head, facing the crowd. "No, Dad, this isn't something to discuss later. I never agreed to give up that house." A wave of disappointed sighs filled the air. Relatives, used to mocking me, now chimed in. "So selfish. No care for family. Always so different." Olivia's eyes welled up, looking at me like I'd shattered her happiness. "Claire, I thought—" I met her gaze, calm. "You thought wrong, Olivia. Your happiness can't be built on forcing others." The air grew heavy. Politicians, tycoons, reporters invited for coverage, all witnessed the Bennett family unravel publicly. Then, a rush of footsteps. Margaret, my mother, stormed from the head table, her face flushed, eyes blazing. "Claire Bennett!" she shouted, still gripping the microphone. "You will not humiliate this family." Before I could react, her hand swung. "Slap!" The sound echoed through the ballroom, a whip cracking the air. My cheek burned, my head tilted from the force, my diamond earring flying off, clattering on the marble floor. The room froze. 300 eyes widened. Whispers stopped. The photographer's camera halted mid-air. Even the background music ceased, leaving a painful silence. I stood still. No tears, no retaliation. I only felt my cheek burn and a part of my heart crack again. I bent down, slowly retrieving the sparkling earring under the chandelier's light. I reattached it, stood tall, smoothed my dress. Dad stammered, "Claire, you—" But I raised a hand to stop him. I grabbed my clutch from the table, looked at Olivia evenly. "Congratulations, Olivia. I hope this marriage brings you the joy you want." Then I turned and walked away. No one stopped me. My heels clicked on the marble, each step a knife cutting through the silence. Behind me, the room erupted into chaos. Cries, arguments, chairs scraping, but I didn't look back. The grand doors closed behind me. I stepped into the wide hallway, the lights softer, leaving the storm behind. I knew this was just the beginning. That slap didn't just humiliate me. It ignited a chain of events my family never foresaw. And out there, another force was waiting to step in, to turn everything upside down. If you want to hear more stories like mine and relate to the struggles I'm facing, check out my previous videos on this channel. Believe it or not, in just minutes, someone condemned by an entire room can become the one defended. I lived that moment, right after leaving the ballroom with my cheeks still stinging from the slap. The grand doors closed behind me. I thought the story ended in utter humiliation, but I didn't know the real battle was just beginning. As I stepped into the hallway, a text lit up my phone. From Marcus Lee, CEO of Hayes Capital, my mentor, and a major shareholder owning 40% of my father's company. "On my way, be ready." I froze, my heart pounding. If he showed up now, the game would change entirely. I glanced back at the ballroom. The noise of arguments and Olivia's sobs echoed out. Then, like a movie scene, the door swung open. Marcus Lee strode in. In a black Armani suit, tall, his face cold, but every gesture exuding confidence. He was followed by two lawyers carrying thick briefcases. The room hushed. Marcus's presence was a winter storm, sweeping away chaos for a heavier tension. My apologies for interrupting, his voice boomed, warm yet sharp, but I need to address something. Dad, Thomas paled. He stammered, Mr. Mr. Marcus? Why are you here? Marcus ignored him, his eyes locking on me at the back of the hall. You just witnessed a coerced spectacle, broadcast live. I can't ignore that. A wave of whispers swept the room. Everyone realized this was no longer just a Bennett family matter. Marcus continued, Let me clarify. Claire Bennett isn't just the bride's sister. She's vice president of global development at Hayes Capital, overseeing our Asia-Pacific markets. She's secured deals worth tens of millions. Those in business here have likely heard of our Singapore and Tokyo successes, all led by her. The room buzzed. Faces that once smirked now looked uneasy. Those who whispered selfish now saw me differently. Marcus's gaze pierced my parents. The Manhattan Penthouse isn't a wedding gift. It's part of Claire's executive compensation package, legally hers, protected by an anti-coercion clause. This allows our company to intervene if her assets are pressured, and, as you saw, the evidence is clear. One lawyer set a laptop on the table, projecting the live stream of Mom slapping me before 300 guests. Gasps rose. Someone muttered, My God, that's coercion. Olivia sobbed. But no one rushed to comfort her now. All were too busy staring at my parents, who'd turned their daughter's wedding into a public scandal. Marcus concluded, As CEO of Hayes Capital and a major shareholder in Thomas Bennett's company, I state clearly, any further coercion will lead to legal action. All current contracts with Bennett's company will be reviewed immediately. Dad nearly collapsed. He knew Marcus wasn't just an unexpected guest. He held the fate of his company. Guests began murmuring, some leaving. Faces once smiling at my family now turned cold. Phones buzzed, likely partners, press, or news outlets spreading the video. Someone nearby whispered, This'll be in tomorrow's papers. Another replied, No, faster, it's already trending on Twitter. I stood silent, anger mixing with pain, but above all, a cold justice settling in. Olivia turned to me, trembling. Claire, why did you let this happen? I met her eyes calm. Olivia, I didn't do anything. The truth just came out. A door slammed at the hall's corner. The groom's family, faces grim, walked out. I heard the groom's mother say clearly, This wedding needs to be postponed. We need to reassess this family. Olivia sank into a chair, her white gown streaked with mascara and tears. Mom held her, trembling, unable to speak. Dad stood frozen, staring at Marcus as if his world had crumbled. I knew this moment would haunt them forever. Marcus approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. He spoke softly, for my ears only. You held your dignity. Let us handle the rest. I nodded. No more words needed. I walked out, leaving the chaos behind. On the way, my phone buzzed with messages and calls. Friends, colleagues, even strangers. The video of Mom slapping me had gone viral in minutes. New York's evening sky was a deep blue-purple. I looked up, breathing deeply. Though my cheek still stung, my heart still ached, I knew. From this moment, I was no longer the underdog. I'd stepped out of the shadows, and for the first time, the light shone on me. Have you ever seen someone once untouchable in your family become so fragile you had to save their life? I did, and it forever changed how I saw my father. 3 days after that fateful slap at the Waldorf Astoria, Bennett flooded headlines and social media, not with the admiration Dad craved, but with mockery. The video of Mom slapping me spread to every corner of New York, sparking a firestorm of outrage. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, reporters, strangers. Headlines screamed, Tycoon Thomas Bennett forces daughter to gift penthouse. Wife slaps her before 300 guests. Comments raged against my family. But the worst wasn't the public. Major partners canceled contracts. Decades of Dad's deals vanished in days. Bennett & Co.'s once gleaming office grew eerily quiet, like a sinking ship. I heard Dad locked himself in his office for 48 hours, not eating, not sleeping, calling old business friends for help. But in finance, loyalty is thin as morning dew. Once credibility's gone, no one wants to sync with you. On the third afternoon, as I sat in my penthouse, my phone rang, my aunt's trembling voice. Claire, come quick. Your father. He's collapsed. I rushed to the hospital. White corridors, antiseptic stench. Through a glass window, I saw Dad motionless, an oxygen tube in his mouth, doctors working to restart his heart. The man once commanding at Gallas now lay shrunken, gray, fragile as a lost child. A doctor hurried out. We need family consent for surgery. It's critical. If we don't act now, he may not make it. I froze. A cruel question stabbed. Why me? When had he ever protected me? He'd only compared me to Olivia, made me the family's imperfect shadow. My hand trembled, holding the pen. I could walk away, let him face the consequences. But through the glass, seeing his chest heave weakly, old memories surfaced. His hand guiding me across the street at 6, his voice reading fairy tales during a blackout. Brief, buried under years of hurt, but real. I took a deep breath, signed the form. Even if you never protected me, I whispered, I can't turn my back. The surgery lasted over 2 hours. I sat in the hallway, hands clasped, heart chaotic. Anger, pity, pain twisted together. I thought I hated him, but facing death, hate lost its weight. Finally, the doctor emerged, sweat on his scrubs, smiling faintly. Surgery was successful. He's stable but needs family close. I entered the recovery room. Dad lay pale, eyes barely open. Seeing me, he choked, eyes red. I'd never seen him cry. The proud man now trembled like he'd lost everything. He reached out weakly. I hesitated, then took his hand. For the first time, he gripped mine tightly. Claire, his voice rasped, broken. You're stronger than I thought. I'm sorry. I was wrong. All these years. Tears burned my eyes. I wasn't sure if they were for forgiveness or my own release. But for the first time, I felt I wasn't a shadow. Dad finally saw me. Not as a money machine, not as different, but as a person. I squeezed his hand, softly saying, Rest, Dad, we have a lot to talk about. He nodded faintly, eyes closing as if shedding a burden. That night, I sat by his bed, watching dim lights on the ceiling. Forgiveness didn't erase the pain, but it was a choice not to be chained by it. Saving Dad wasn't just giving him a chance to live, it gave me freedom from hatred. Have you ever emerged from a storm and instead of ruin, seen a clearer sky? I did. And in that moment, I knew. Sometimes collapse is the only way to be reborn. After the wedding fiasco and Dad's heart attack, my life took an unexpected turn. New York's cutthroat finance world didn't break me. It made me stronger. A week later, Hayes Capital's board met urgently, and Marcus announced I was promoted to Senior Vice President of Global Operations. He said, Claire, you've shown not just skill but courage. When your family turned away, you held your dignity. That's what this company needs in leadership. I sat still, letting his words sink in. For years, I'd heard criticism from family. Now, someone saw my true worth. My name hit major business magazines. Not for scandal, but for concrete achievements. I became a rising star in New York finance. To Mom, Margaret, it was still vain ambition. But this time, I didn't need her validation. Olivia was the first to reach out. Months after the postponed wedding, her marriage fell apart. The groom's family saw her selfishness and dependence, wanting no part of it. She showed up at my penthouse, eyes swollen. Claire, she whispered, I'm sorry, I know. It's my fault. If I hadn't stayed silent, hadn't gone along, this wouldn't have happened. I looked at her. In her eyes, I saw not arrogance, but brokenness. I hugged her, saying softly, Olivia, family exists with respect and love. If you understand that, it's not too late to change. She sobbed in my arms, and instead of hate, I felt relief. After years as a shadow, I'd stepped out. Not through revenge, but through compassion. I used part of my bonus to start a scholarship fund in my grandmother's name, the woman who once held me as a child and whispered, You don't need to be like anyone else, just you. At the fund's launch, the hall was packed with intellectuals, entrepreneurs, young students. I stepped to the podium under soft light, introducing its purpose, to support kids abandoned or unrecognized by their families. Then, unexpectedly, Dad, Thomas, appeared. Still frail, his hair grayer poster deal. Before hundreds, he stepped up, voice trembling. My daughter, Claire Bennett, deserves all respect. I'm sorry for not protecting you when you needed it. I'm prouder of you than anything. Applause roared. I looked at him, emotions complex. Old wounds didn't vanish, but I knew he'd faced them bravely. Mom wasn't there. She clung to her pride, still telling relatives I neglected family for fame. But I didn't care. I'd learned to let go. Forgiveness wasn't forcing others to change, it was freeing myself from their chains. That night, I returned to my penthouse. New York's lights glittered like an ocean of stars. I stood by the glass, wine in hand, letting silence seep into my breath. 10 years ago, I'd stood before a cheap rented apartment, vowing to rise. Today, I had not just this penthouse, but freedom in my soul. I whispered to myself, I chose me. Compassion doesn't weaken me, it sets me free. The city's lights reflected in my eyes, like thousands of candles nodding softly. Maybe, hearing my story, you'll see something simple. True strength isn't in wealth or titles, but in holding your dignity. I've walked through humiliation, bitter comparisons, and lonely tears. But I learned compassion isn't weakness. It's choosing not to let hate rule, letting go at the right time to free your soul. I know every family has conflicts, moments we feel like shadows. But you deserve recognition, respect, love. And if no one gives it, be brave enough to give it to yourself. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment with your thoughts or simply, I understand, to show you're not alone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join me in more human stories ahead.